Hello humans and welcome to Plants Per Serving. If this is your first time here, go ahead, subscribe, and ring that bell so you know when the new meals are dropping. Stick around to the end of this video, got a pretty sweet giveaway going and you don't want to miss out. Alright, super excited about today. My first video in a little ingredient series I'm going to do. Instead of cooking anything, we're just going to be nerding out on one specific ingredient that you find a lot in plant-based cooking. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about tapioca starch or flour. Which is it? I don't know, but we're going to get to it. Alright, so tapioca is just about as pure as starch as you can get and contains very few nutrients. By itself, it really doesn't have any impressive health benefits or adverse effects worth noting, so we're not really going to get into that aspect of it. But let's break it down further. Let's talk about starch or amylum. Starch is a polymeric carbohydrate consisting of a number of glucose units that are joined by glycosidic bonds. Starch is produced from excess glucose in plants. This polysaccharide is produced as energy storage by most green plants. Consider it like a reserve food supply for them. Alright, so being a polysaccharide means that they are essentially a chain of single sugar molecules that are linked together. They are insoluble in water, alcohol, and other solvents. Starches have been utilized by humans throughout history and were even found to be used as an adhesive in ancient Egypt for papyrus paper. Alright, so now that we have a loose understanding of starch, let's get to today's ingredient, tapioca starch. So tapioca starch, also known as tapioca flour, is a starchy white flour that has just a slight hint of sweetness to it. Now I'm not glossing over this, but tapioca starch and tapioca flour are the same thing, plain and simple. You may find them in markets or co-ops as tapioca starch, and then you go to your big box grocery store and you find companies like Bob's Red Mill, etc., and they're selling it as flour, but there is no difference in the actual products. So tapioca flour, tapioca starch, same thing. For my purposes, I'm going to refer to it as tapioca starch because that is what I know it as. So, back to it. Tapioca starch is an alternative to traditional wheat flours as it is grain-free and has a variety of uses of baking. But where does it come from? Well, it is made from the starch extracted from the South American cassava plant. Cassava, or Manihot esculenta, is a perennial woody shrub native to South America of the spurge family, Euphorbicaea. You may also hear this called yucca in Spanish America or in the US, but it is not related to the yucca. Very important C here. So although this is a perennial plant, it is cultivated as an annual crop because we need our tapioca. Alright, so tapioca is known kind of for its ball-shaped cameos in bubble teas, puddings, pancakes, and other East Asian desserts, but it also has like a nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, industrial, textile, and other commercial applications. But again today, trying to reel myself in here, we are trying to focus on tapioca starch. I know I keep getting derailed. So, bringing it back to tapioca starch. Tapioca starch comes from cassava, a root vegetable of the cassava shrub. It was domesticated from wild Manihot esculenta populations along the southern border of the Amazon basin in Brazil. Okay, so we've got the cassava root, but how is it turned into starch? Okay, well, the starch is extracted from the cassava root through a process of washing and then pulping. The wet pulp is squeezed to extract the starchy liquid, which is then dried, and voila, tapioca starch. When cooked, tapioca starch forms a clear gel with a bit of a unique texture that will kind of set into this soft gel when it cools. When you add it to bread products, though, it can help soften the texture and reduce the stickiness. I feel like that's kind of a weird juxtaposition, but that's how it works. Anyways, tapioca starch is also known for its ability to thicken and cook at lower temperatures rather than alternative products, which is why I use it in my mozzarella cheese recipe because you're kind of cooking these cashew cream down at a very low temperature. Okay, so it's a fine white powder. It works well as also a gluten-free kind of ingredient thing. It can add structure to gluten-free baking. If you're somebody who has like aversions or sensitivities or allergies, this is something that you want to implement into your normal cooking thing. In addition to all that, it can also add chewy and or crisp texture into things like cookies and cakes. So it's a pretty versatile ingredient, and allergies to cassava or tapioca are pretty rare. All right, so you want to be careful to not overuse this because it can turn your food slimy and then add a strong and unwanted taste to the final product. So most recipes you'll find will be using some tapioca starch, but not a lot. So when you're creating your own recipes, you want to find that balance. All right. So tapioca starch can also be used as a thickener in sauces and gravy, but personally, I like good old-fashioned flour for that purpose, but we don't need to get into that right now. because I believe I've taken up enough of your time geeking out over tapioca starch. So, what have we learned? Tapioca flour and starch are the same thing. It is a relatively pure starch and it's derived from the cassava root. Allergies to it are rare and it cooks really well at low temperatures, and it can be used to thicken, add structure, chew, and or crispiness to your recipes. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed learning about this because I know that I did. Let's get into the giveaway. Thug Kitchen 101. I'm going to be giving away a copy of one of these books at the 500 subscriber mark. So comment below if you're interested in that. And please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. We're going to be doing a lot of these videos and we'll get better as we go along. Thanks, y'all.